Did The Simpsons predict Twitter becoming X? Did they know horse meat was going to end up in burgers across the United Kingdom? Does this cartoon predict future events, or is reality forming around The Simpsons? In 1994, The Simpsons had a moment where lunch lady Doris pours assorted horse parts from a giant metal tub labeled assorted horse parts into the school meals at Springfield Elementary. It's a quick gag, just a part of the show's usual weirdness, but in 2013, that throwaway joke became one of the more talked about scenes in the show, and not for a good reason. A bunch of horse DNA was found in beef products in the United Kingdom. People were eating burgers, understandably believing that there was no trace of horse meat in it. As authorities worked to track down the perps, it turned out this was not just a one-off mistake either. It was a massive fraud. Companies were deliberately passing off horse meat as beef in all kinds of products, from frozen meals to burgers. The whole thing led to product recalls, public outrage, and a serious drop in trust for food companies. The Simpsons had foreshadowed the whole scandal with one random visual gag. Now let's look at a much later episode that is still over a decade old now. Yikes. Season 23, episode 21, Ned and Edna's Blenda Agenda. In this episode, Homer's phone briefly shows an app with a large X as the logo, amongst other more standard looking social media apps. If you weren't paying attention, you'd totally miss it, which people did back in 2012, but when Twitter rebranded to X in 2023 and someone decided to rewatch season 23 of The Simpsons for some reason, you were likely like, holy crap, Homer has X on his phone. The Simpsons writers didn't predict the exact company or context, but they did nail the idea of an X symbol taking over a major platform. Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter, including ditching the iconic blue bird logo for a bold X as part of his vision to transform the platform. Now, is a company with an X logo really that out there and original? No, but it is interesting that this fictional logo was specifically meant to be a social media app. In the 1995 episode Lisa's Wedding, Lisa's future was a mix of predictions, some obvious, some way out there. One of the more bizarre moments was when the episode showed librarians being replaced by robots. Back then, the idea of robots in libraries seemed so futuristic, almost impossible. But in 2016, a group of students at a university in Wales debuted a robot librarian named Hugh. Hugh was designed to help library goers by guiding them to books and listening to their requests. Not only did The Simpsons get the idea of robot librarians right, but they also nailed the name, Hugh. And yeah, I'm guessing the university students named their robot after the Simpsons episode specifically, but still, pretty cool. Hugh was not the only piece of futurism predicted in this episode though. The show also had a shot of a building behind London's Tower Bridge, and it looked exactly like the Shard. But the thing is, this building wouldn't start construction until 2009, years after the episode aired. Was this just a lucky coincidence? Well, considering The Simpsons' track record, I don't know. The Frying Dutchman episode of The Simpsons shows Homer at an all-you-can-eat seafood buffet. Of course, in true Homer fashion, he overdoes it, eating so much shrimp and lobster that he's eventually just kicked out of the restaurant, so he decides to sue for false advertising. Well, years later, a man in Massachusetts, Springfield, Massachusetts, sued the Golden Corral buffet chain for $2 million, claiming false advertising after being kicked out of the restaurant for eating too much. So yeah, he was essentially in the same position as Homer. Oh, and the case even ended in an out-of-court settlement, just like in the episode. The similarity is wild, especially considering the case wasn't some huge media sensation. It was just one guy trying to get back at a buffet that kicked him out for eating too much. I've heard pretty much every one of these Simpsons predictions, but this one's new to me. In The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace from 1998, Homer tries his hand at being an inventor, and during a scene he writes an equation on a chalkboard that seems like just complete gibberish. It's something nobody would ever have thought twice about. That is, if it weren't for the fact that when you break it down, the equation is shockingly close to predicting the mass of the Higgs boson particle, something scientists didn't discover until 2012. The Higgs boson is critical to understanding how particles get mass, and scientists spent decades searching for it. In fact, the equation Homer wrote turned out to be so close to the real thing that Dr. Simon Singh, a British science writer, pointed out the resemblance, saying it almost predicted the mass of the elementary particle. That equation predicts the mass of the Higgs boson. If you work it out, you get the mass of a Higgs boson that's only a bit larger than the nano mass of a Higgs boson actually is. It's kind of amazing, as Homer makes this prediction 14 years before it was discovered, end quote. So yeah, pretty nuts that a cartoon teased at something as complex as a fundamental particle years before it was even discovered. If you're a Simpsons fan, you probably remember Blinky, the three-eyed fish found near the Springfield nuclear power plant. Well, life, again, decided to copy the show when a real-world version of Blinky showed up in Argentina. Fishermen there caught a three-eyed wolffish in a reservoir that's fed by a local nuclear power plant. Now, of course, the discovery was pretty disturbing. It's fun seeing a three-eyed fish in a light, frothy cartoon full of people with bright yellow skin. It's a bit more concerning seeing toxic fish show up in real life, especially one formed out of polluted water. Fishermen weren't thrilled about it either. Julian Smutt, one of the fishermen, said, "We were fishing and we got the surprise of getting this rare specimen. As it was dark at the time, we did not notice, but then you looked at him with a flashlight and you saw that he had a third eye." The fish was handed over to local authorities for testing. Still don't know exactly what caused the mutation, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it was the radioactive water. Probably. The latest in the long line of Simpsons episodes fans look back on with added context is the Great Fatsby from season 28. In this episode from 2017, a character who is basically a Simpsons version of Diddy Combs without actually being called Diddy Combs throws an exclusive party where everyone's dressed in white. Looking at these screenshots, it's really hard to believe this episode wasn't just released like last month as a very obvious dig. Now, Diddy's parties were very well known in Hollywood. Not everyone knew about all the darker stuff going on, but the stuff on the surface, like the all-white dress code, some of the celebrities that would show up, all that stuff was pretty common knowledge. So this one may not be as surprising as other stuff on this list, but it may be the most eerie to look back on. Definitely an episode that hasn't aged well. One of the most shocking stories of 2013 was when Edward Snowden leaked information about the US government's surveillance program, revealing that the NSA was spying on its citizens on a massive scale. The whole thing shook people's trust in the government, and the reality hit hard when it turned out that the government was listening to private conversations, tracking online activity, and monitoring just about everything. The crazy part, The Simpsons actually predicted it years before. In The Simpsons movie from 2007, there's a scene where the family is on the run, and Marge says to Lisa, "Oh, Lisa." I'm not even gonna try. "Oh, Lisa, it's not like the government is listening to everybody's conversation." Right after, the scene cuts to the NSA doing exactly that, spying on everyone. So yeah, this moment hit a little differently after Snowden's revelations. Here's one of the Simpsons moments that's very weird. Feels like it was destined to happen. In season 2, there's an episode called Brush with Greatness, where Marge gets this letter from Ringo Starr after she paints a portrait of him. After years of waiting, she finally hears back from him, and this gives her the confidence to pursue her art. Sounds like the kind of heartwarming plot you'd expect from a cartoon, but a little too sweet to happen in real life, right? But in May of 2024, something very similar happened, but this time it was another Beatle, Paul McCartney, who responded to a fan. A woman named Adrian from Brooklyn had done a video interview 60 years before, declaring her love for Paul McCartney. Fast forward to 2024, and Paul saw the video, responded to it on TikTok and Instagram, and even invited her to a photo exhibition in New York. Before that, he'd also responded to 2 women from Essex who'd sent him a mixtape decades before. Alright, the whole Fox merger situation. If you keep up with the business world, you probably know about the Disney-Fox merger that went down in 2019, but if you go back to 1998, The Simpsons predicted this whole thing. In this season 10 episode, there's an establishing shot of the 20th Century Fox entrance with with text below reading a division of the Walt Disney Company. Well, 21 years later, Disney purchased Fox for $71 billion, absorbing massive properties like The Simpsons, Avatar, X-Men, and a whole list of other stuff. Now, this one wasn't super far-fetched, to be fair. Disney is a massive conglomerate. They buy up lots of companies, but that's been happening more in the last decade or so, and the idea of Disney owning something like The Simpsons, which was seen as pretty edgy back then, was kind of unheard of. That's why it was a joke. The Simpsons has always poked fun at corporate culture, but here it was, predicting the exact future of not only the media industry, but itself. What streaming service can you find The Simpsons on now? Disney Plus. So first up we have Trump 2024. So back in 2015, there was a Simpsons short called Trumptastic Voyage. In a scene where Homer flies by a billboard, we see a sign that reads Trump 2024. Of course, not only did Trump end up running again in 2024, but he won. To take things just a step further though, life imitated art again when Donald Trump was arrested the same day the Barbie movie was released. Now, what am I referring to here? Well, in episode 14 of season 5, Lisa vs. Malibu Stacy, a news report is shown on TV documenting the release of the new Malibu Stacy doll, pretty much the Barbie of the Simpsons universe. At the end of the news report, Kent Brockman quickly slips in the fact that the US president has been arrested, and then the segment ends. So the US president of the Simpsons universe was arrested on the day of a Malibu Stacy movie coming out, and in real life, Trump was arrested the day Barbie hit theaters. Not on the same charges, to be fair. In The Simpsons, Brockman casually revealed that the president had killed someone, but the fact that the real life played out kinda like it did in The Simpsons, not just with Trump's political comeback, but the fact that he ended up being arrested on the day of the Barbie movie's release, just like the president in the cartoon as well, definitely a weird one. In the 1992 episode Lisa the Greek, Homer figures out that Lisa has a weirdly accurate knack for predicting NFL game outcomes. She gets upset when she realizes that he's been using her predictions for gambling, and completely distraught, she makes her own gamble. If she still loves her dad, Washington will win the Super Bowl, but if she doesn't, then the Buffalo Bills will win. In the end, Washington wins. All is well, move on to the next episode and more hijinks ensue. But here's what happened in real life, and just a few days after the episode aired, no less, Washington defeated Buffalo in the Super Bowl. Now, alright, it's 50-50 odds, big deal, but then the following year, Fox re-aired the episode. They tweaked it for the upcoming Super Bowl, changing some lines, adding the Dallas Cowboys to replace Washington. In the episode, Dallas wins, and sure enough, Dallas ended up winning in real life too. Next year's Super Bowl saw the two teams facing each other again, and The Simpsons once again re-aired the episode, updating another couple lines to account for the rematch, and once again, Dallas took the win. In the 1995 episode Lisa's Wedding, Lisa gets a glimpse of the future during a visit to a fortune teller. Fast forward to 2010 and Lisa is talking to Marge on her phone using something called a picture phone. It's a video call, which back in the day would have seemed so futuristic. I mean, people were still capturing video on clunky VHS cameras back then. But of course today we have FaceTime and plenty of other video calling apps. Video calling isn't exciting at all nowadays, depending who you're talking to, that is. Now, sure, other shows and movies have predicted similar technology all the way back to Star Trek in the 60s, but things get even more specific here. Keep in mind what year the video phone was shown in The Simpsons, 2010. Well, in real life, it was 2010 that Apple came out with FaceTime. Steve Jobs announced the breakthrough video calling technology as part of the iPhone 4 release. In the 2016 episode Friends and Family, Mr. Burns gets curious about virtual reality after meeting Professor Fink, who's rocking a VR headset. Burns decides to try out the tech himself, and before long, he's got a whole virtual family program using The Simpsons, minus Homer of course, as his test subjects. By the end of the episode, pretty much everyone in Springfield is walking around wearing VR glasses, living their lives in a digital world. Well, in our universe, just last year, in February of 2024, Apple released the Apple Vision Pro. this insane mixed reality headset, a combination of virtual and augmented reality that overlays digital media onto the real world that you are observing. I haven't tried it. I've only ever tried standard VR, which is the most 2025 thing I've said so far this year. But from what I've seen of the Apple Vision Pro, it looks totally sci-fi and pretty similar to the technology seen in the Simpsons episode. Not everyone is using this technology yet, but early adopters are already making this a part of their daily routines. In the 1993 episode Springfield, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Legalized Gambling, Springfield's version of Siegfried and Roy, known as Gunther and Ernst, are performing at a casino with their white Bengal tiger Anastasia. After yelling at the tiger to wake up and taunting it about how much better it is performing in captivity rather than living out its life in the jungle, the tiger starts to reflect on its once peaceful days before Gunther and Ernst showed up to trank it and drag it off to Vegas. Anastasia then goes into a blind rage and starts mauling her captors. Of course, this is all played for laughs, but there's no denying that it's eerily similar to a real-life event that would happen later. In 2003, Roy Horn, one of the famous Siegfried and Roy duo, was attacked by one of their animals, also a white Bengal tiger, during a performance in Las Vegas. The attack left Roy partially paralyzed and ended their act. In the 2008 episode Treehouse of Horror 19, which aired right before the presidential election that year, Homer goes to vote on an electronic voting machine. He tries to vote for Barack Obama, but the machine keeps registering his vote for John McCain instead. He tries 6 times, and each time it switches his vote. It's pretty absurd, but the joke hits hard given the whole conversation about voting technology, especially looking back after 2012, when there were a ton of reports that a similar glitch had happened in real life. In some states, electronic voting machines were flipping votes for Obama to Mitt Romney, which obviously raised huge concerns about the security of electronic voting systems. And it's freaky to think that a wacky gag on a friendly cartoon like The Simpsons seemed to be playing out in real life. The scariest part about this for me, though, is that I bet a lot of you watching this are too young to even remember the 2012 election, let alone the 2008 one. In the 2006 episode Homer's Paternity Goot, Homer believes that he's found his biological father, a man named Mason Fairbanks, who tells him a tale about a lost emerald treasure in a sunken shipwreck called Piso Majado. They take a submarine to go find the treasure, but of course, things go wrong. Homer ends up getting stuck in the wreck and starts running out of oxygen in his sub. Funny in The Simpsons, but in real life, this would of course be a pretty horrific situation to find yourself in. A situation that 5 tourists would find themselves in years later. A lot of people started drawing parallels to this episode and the Titan submersible accident. On June 18th of 2023, 5 people boarded the OceanGate's Titan submersible to explore the Titanic wreck in the Atlantic Ocean. Sadly, within 2 hours of the dive, the sub lost communication and it then imploded, killing everyone on board. Now, it's not like a small submarine getting stuck underwater is a novel story concept, but there's another connection to The Simpsons here. One of The Simpsons writers actually went on to make a few trips with OceanGate to see the Titanic wreck. He later told the US Sun that every single time there were issues with the communication systems. In the 1998 episode Lard of the Dance, Homer gets the idea to start stealing grease to make money, and who better to enlist for a job like that than his very own rascal of a son, Bart. Bart ends up stealing grease from the school cafeteria and Krusty Burger. Pretty standard, silly Simpson stuff, but years later, this happened for real. In 2008, as the price of oil started to skyrocket, a black market for used grease started coming about. Restaurant grease thefts were becoming a big problem. An article in the New York Times that year even came out with a story where a man stole over 300 gallons of grease from a Burger King. And if I had to choose one fast food restaurant that is basically our version of Krusty Burger, it would be Burger King. I mean, sure, McDonald's has Ronald McDonald as a mascot, another clown, but they don't have burger in their name. Plus, Burger King had partnered with The Simpsons for a long time, releasing all those awesome Simpsons Treehouse of Horror kids meal toys in the 2000s. Good old days. Only reason to go to Burger King, in my opinion, actually. I will die on that hill. Burger King, one of the worst fast food restaurants. Next up, 3D printed food. We're gonna take a trip back to the episode Future Drama from 2005. In this one, Marge takes a picture of Bart and Lisa before prom, then turns it into a 3D printed cake. At the time, this seemed completely out of the realm of possibility, right? Just some ridiculous cartoon future technology, but now 3D printed food is a real thing. It's not an everyday thing, but the technology does exist. You have companies like Food Inc. who have pop-up restaurants where everything from the utensils, the furniture, and yes, the food is 3D printed. They describe it as a one-of-a-kind gourmet experience where fine dining meets futuristic tech. So it's happening, but the question is, will 3D printed food be something you can just whip up in your kitchen one day? Well, I don't see why not. Now, the Simpsons are not the first to envision something like this. You have the food replicators again in Star Trek, and I'm sure there are others, but there is a difference here. In Star Trek, the replicators turn energy into food, whereas in The Simpsons, it is very specifically 3D printing. Back in Season 3, Episode 24, Brother, Can You Spare Two Dimes?, Homer's brother Herb invents a device that helps parents understand what their infants' cries mean, and you guessed it, turns out technology like this isn't actually that far-fetched. There's a company called Zoundream that's actually working on something similar. They've created technology that analyzes infant cries to figure out whether they're hungry, tired, or just fussy. According to their website, their system looks at things like cry acoustics, brain signals, and even facial expressions to figure out what's going on. So yeah, it's a real thing in development and could be on the market sooner than you think.
Right, he's the man on everybody's mind and the name on everybody's lips as of 6:11 p.m. on July 13th, 2024. It's Donald Trump. And the question likely on all of your minds is, did The Simpsons actually predict what we think they predicted? Well, let's break it down. In Season 11, Episode 15 of The Simpsons, Bart to the Future, which was released in 2015, The Simpsons did predict that Donald Trump would in fact be running for president in 2024, a prediction that would have not come true had Trump served 2 consecutive 4-year terms starting in 2017. During the episode, Homer Simpson can be seen flying past a presidential campaign sign that reads, Trump 2024. As for the events and the attempt made on the former president this past July 13th, the prediction is false. Not only that, but this image never actually appeared in The Simpsons. It's doctored all the way down to the Huffington Post watermark. So I'm sorry, but to all of you out there sharing the image on Twitter with the caption, you can't make this stuff up. I just want you to know that you 100% can. There is something else, however, that might be of interest to those hoping that The Simpsons did in fact make a prediction regarding the events on July 13th. This image here, which is blurred to comply with YouTube guidelines, is a screen grab taken from a new unreleased episode of The Simpsons. In it, you can see a weapon being aimed at Lisa while she presents at a political rally. The episode was supposed to air on July 14th, the day after the incident took place, but it was pulled due to the similarity between the subject matter of the episode and the events just one day prior. That's pretty wild.
Bart to the Future, it's just the gift that never stops giving when it comes to uncanny predictions about the future, which we're unfortunately in the midst of. So in the episode, Lisa is president and alludes to some economic issues, telling Milhouse, as you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. How bad is it, Milhouse Van Houten? With Milhouse responding, we're broke. The episode takes place in 2030. Trump and Biden are currently running for president, and we pretty much all know who's gonna win at this point. So the timeline of this syncs up surprisingly well. And are we on the verge of an economic crisis? I mean, most people would say we're already in it. Not only is there a lot going on in the world right now, just a couple wars, the job market abruptly shifting due to AI, more on that in a minute, but we're also recovering from a lot. That little thing that started spreading around in 2020 certainly didn't help with the economy. So Bart to the Future is just getting more and more real with each passing day.
While we have definitely mentioned AI takeover on this channel before, I feel like each time a Simpsons prediction video rolls around, it's worth mentioning again, because these artificial intelligent technologies just keep on advancing, threatening our livelihood and sometimes even our lives. Some recent terrifying advancements in AI technology include deepfakes, brain implants, and of course, Teslas. As some of you might know, deepfakes generated by AI have begun circulating the web at a rapid rate as of late. Deepfakes so realistic it has become increasingly difficult to distinguish the truth from fantasy while browsing the web. At one point, it was quite easy to tell by hands with 10 fingers and faces with 3 ears that a video was fake, but today it takes a lot more effort. It's pretty scary that in this day and age, with pretty much all of the information you could ever think of accessible at the click of a mouse or the touch of a screen, we really have no way of knowing what's real and what's fake. More on Teslas and brain chips after this. Take it away, James.
Paul McCartney did something in 2024 that felt oddly similar to something that played out in The Simpsons way back. In the season 2 episode, Brush with Greatness, Bart finds Marge's old paintings of Ringo Starr of the Beatles in the attic. Marge had sent Ringo a portrait years before, but never got a response. Lisa ends up encouraging Marge to join a painting class, so she does. Wins an art show, but then she's tasked with painting Mr. Burns, who ends up coming over to the house and in true Mr. Burns fashion, just insults the entire family. Marge gets so fed up she's on the verge of quitting the project, but then she finally receives a letter from Ringo Starr, praising her portrait of him from decades before. This reignites her passion for art, and the end of the episode ends happily. Now, this sounds like something that would only happen in an animated sitcom, but something similar happened in real life. It wasn't Ringo, but it was another Beatle, Paul McCartney. In May of 2024, Paul responded to a woman from Brooklyn named Adrian. She'd proclaimed her love for him in a video interview 60 years before. Paul saw her video and responded through a TikTok and Instagram video inviting her to a photo exhibition in New York. And before that, Paul had also replied to 2 men from Essex who'd sent him a mixtape decades earlier. So, hey, there you go. Don't be a stan. Sometimes it takes celebrities a while to get back to you. Is anyone gonna get that Stan reference?
Back to brain chips. On January 28th of this year, a real-life human being received the very first Neuralink, a real-life AI-powered brain chip that goes in the brain. The next day, Elon Musk, founder of the company, tweeted the first human received an implant from Neuralink yesterday and is recovering well. Initial results show promising neuron spike. That is all good and well, but considering Elon's track record for AI inventions, well, let's put it this way. Recently, there has been a major increase in Tesla users reporting being either locked out or locked in of their cars because of battery failure or other problems with the software. There have also been instances where the electric engines have caused fires and the AI driving features have caused cars to swerve on the road. Not only that, but have you seen the new Cybertruck? Well, apparently the door safety features aren't really up to par with other electric cars on the road. Basically, when an automated door shuts, there's supposed to be a safety feature that senses whether or not a body part, such as a finger or an arm, is in the way of the door. If it senses it, the door should bounce back so it doesn't break your limbs off. It appears that the Cybertruck lacks that feature. Take a look. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I hope Neuralink, the literal chip that gets implanted into a person's literal brain, is a little more reliable than some of Elon's other projects. By the way, this is not Elon slander. Don't come for me. It's facts. It's for you.
So I mentioned Lisa being president in Bart to the Future earlier, but could reality be mimicking this episode in even more ways? Take Kamala Harris, for example. Not only is she the first female vice president, but there's a very high chance she may go on to be president in the very near future, perhaps right after Trump's term. I mean, after the next term. We don't know who's gonna win. Again, Bart to the Future, where Lisa is president, takes place in 2030, so it lines up pretty well. It's also pretty nutty that Kamala Harris had a very similar outfit to Lisa in this episode when she was inaugurated in 2021. Purple jacket, pearls, even the earrings, pretty much identical. I mean, she looks just like her. She's just not plagued with jaundice like everyone in The Simpsons, unfortunately, is.
In episode 2 of season 28 of The Simpsons, Friends and Family, Mr. Burns, Homer's boss, gets a hold of some virtual reality glasses. He takes them home and uses them to program a virtual family. The show then fast forwards to a few years later, and pretty much everyone, and by that I mean literally everyone, is using VR glasses, living in virtual worlds completely separate from reality and completely separate from one another. That episode came out in 2016. Apple Vision Pro, the real-life version of these VR glasses, came out this year on February 2nd of 2024. The glasses are mixed reality headsets that allow digital media to interact with the world in front of you, which luckily means that current on-the-go virtual reality devices do still ground themselves in some kind of reality, but based on the predictions made in The Simpsons, one day that might not be the case. Furthermore, while the glasses have yet to become mainstream, there are already people who claim to have incorporated them fully into their daily routines. I just personally find this so scary. It's, live in the now, in reality. Please.
Here's another wild example of life being stranger than fiction sometimes. Season 28, episode 2, titled Friends and Family, has a scene where Marge and Homer use VR goggles to eat virtual reality food, slurping up fudge through straws. Virtual fudge. Fully immersed in this VR experience. Now, this might sound far-fetched, mostly to older folks, not really all that crazy in 2024, so it's probably no surprise to anyone that there's actually a company working on something very similar. Flavor 5 Studio. It's a project called Aero Banquets RMX. It's kind of like a virtual reality art project where you put on VR headsets and you dine in this virtual reality. The project aims to explore, apparently, the intersection of food and mixed reality, trying to change how we experience eating. So, just like Marge and Homer eating VR fudge, Aero Banquets RMX lets people enjoy a meal in a whole new way, blending the real and virtual worlds.
While it is true, the majority of The Simpsons predictions covered on this channel are pretty gloom and doom coded or just scary and weird, there are some Simpsons predictions that are not terrifying omens of the end of life as we know it, but are instead just pretty fun and kind of cool. Take, for example, the famous 1990s band Cypress Hill, known for hit songs like Dr. Green Thumb and Insane in the Membrane, performing with one of the classiest and most prestigious musical groups in the world, the London Symphony Orchestra. In a 1996 episode of The Simpsons titled Homerpalooza, Homer Simpson hosts a music festival during which the London Symphony Orchestra and Cypress Hill perform together in an incredibly intriguing version of Insane in the Membrane. Fast forward to July of this year, 2024, and it actually happened for one night only. Cypress Hill joined the London Symphony Orchestra to perform hits from their 1993 album Black Sunday at the Royal Albert Hall, an incredible night that the hip-hop group actually accredited to The Simpsons, saying, "We salute The Simpsons because if they had not written that episode, we probably wouldn't be doing this," which just then goes to support the theory that The Simpsons doesn't predict the future, it creates it.
And finally, we got more food, printed food. In the episode Future Drama, Marge takes a picture of Bart and Lisa before prom and then turns it into a 3D printed cake. This might have seemed like pure science fiction when it aired in 2005, but it's becoming a reality. Not only is 3D printing technology widely available now, it's not as common to find in a home as a regular printer, but if you really want a 3D printer, you can get one, and yes, even 3D printed food is a thing now. There is a company called Food Inc. that specializes in this technology. They've even opened a restaurant where all the food is 3D printed. And it's not just the food either. They offer a unique gourmet experience where even the utensils and the furniture are all created through 3D printing. In the Simpsons episode Margian Chronicles, Season 27, Episode 16, the Simpsons volunteer for a mission to colonize Mars. Initially set for a distant future, their mission gets bumped up when funding starts to dry up. But when it's time to launch, Marge and Lisa are ready to board the spaceship, only for the shuttle to fail at the last minute. Now, I know what you're thinking, the Simpsons predicting Mars missions, that's a bit of a stretch, but in reality, we've been hearing a lot of talk about Mars recently. Elon Musk has been talking about colonizing Mars for years. In fact, his company SpaceX has been testing Starship launches for potential Mars missions. Musk has even said that he envisions regular trips to Mars to eventually build a self-sustaining colony, saying, quote, "No matter what happens with landing success, SpaceX will increase the number of spaceships traveling to Mars exponentially with every transit opportunity. We want to enable anyone who wants to be a space traveler to go to Mars. That means robots, you, your family, or friends, anyone who dreams of great adventure. NASA is also working on sending astronauts to an asteroid in 2025 and are hoping to send crewed missions to the Red Planet by the 2030s. The idea that we could be looking at Mars colonization within the next few decades is looking pretty plausible. Let's just hope things won't play out like they did in the cartoon with the shuttle exploding, but the fact that we are seriously talking about sending humans to Mars in the near future is something that really can't be ignored. Now, in the classic Simpsons episode Itchy and Scratchy Land from season 6, the Simpsons visit a high-tech theme park where the violent cartoon antics of Itchy and Scratchy come to life. Not through human actors and costumes, but through robots. Now, this isn't exactly a groundbreaking idea, right? Sci-fi has been toying with the concept of robots replacing jobs pretty much since the beginning of sci-fi, but all the same, looking at it today, we're seeing robots become more and more advanced every year. And with AI becoming a massive force in our world, it's not that far-fetched to imagine a future where instead of actors in cartoon character costumes, we have full-on functioning robots bringing some of our favorite animated characters to life at theme parks. In the Simpsons episode Bart to the Future, which we'll be bringing up multiple times on this list, which is season 11, episode 17, in case you want to give it a rewatch, Lisa Simpson becomes the first female president of the United States, but what else did that episode predict? Well, it also forecasted Donald Trump's presidential run. Remember, this was years before he even ran for office in 2016, so if the Simpsons got that right, maybe we should start taking their political predictions a bit more seriously. Also, buying a Christmas tree during the Halloween season. In this opening scene, Homer, dressed as Bender from Futurama, pulls back the flap of his costume to reveal a sticker reading Ivanka 2028. Now, the idea of Ivanka Trump running for president might seem kinda silly, but I feel like I'm probably speaking for a lot of us when I say I really don't know what to expect from the world I'm living in these days. I don't think anything would surprise us at this point. Will she run in 2028? Only time will tell, but we wouldn't be shocked if we start hearing whispers about it in the very near future. Now let's talk about something that might be a little closer to home, pun intended. In the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode from season 13, Marge upgrades the family home into a state-of-the-art smart house called the Ultra House 3000. If you remember the episode, it's basically a 2001 A Space Odyssey parody, and of course the house goes rogue, starts trying to kill Homer. A bit over the top, sure, but here's the thing. Smart homes are already here, and they're getting way more advanced. We've got devices like Alexa and Google Home that can control everything from the lights to your music, but the more people rely on these gadgets, the more we've started to notice some weird quirks. Lights turning off without command, or Alexa butting in on a conversation without being asked. It's like every now and again these machines start to act a little too sentient. So while we haven't yet seen a smart home completely turn on its owners and try to kill them, it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility maybe. With AI getting smarter and tech getting more embedded in our everyday lives, who knows, maybe one day you'll have to make sure your smart fridge isn't secretly plotting your demise. Next up, let's talk about mind control through music. In season 12, episode 14, New Kids on the Block, Bart, Nelson, Milhouse, and Ralph form a boy band called Party Posse. Their first song is a massive hit, but their song is actually being used for subliminal mind control. And the music video for their song, Drop the Bomb, part of the chorus goes, Yvan ek nioj, the lyrics of which are spelled out on screen, while Lisa discovers that when spelled out backwards, the line becomes join the Navy. In the episode, the music producer behind the boy bands is revealed to be a Navy lieutenant, using music as a covert tool for recruitment. While the plot itself is clearly ridiculous, it does touch on something that's not as far-fetched as it sounds, the idea of subliminal messages in media. Now, this is of course nothing new, but in a world where we're more consumed by media than ever before, who's to say we won't see more subtle psychological tactics used in pop music, social media, movies, and the countless shows we stream online. I think the most ridiculous and hard to believe part about this episode is actually Nelson being in a boy band, and that's saying a lot. The Simpsons also have an AI robot takeover in an episode. In the episode Them Robot from season 23, Mr. Smithers calls all the workers into a meeting. And what's the big announcement? Well, Smithers proudly reveals an army of AI robots, telling the employees, you will train them and they will replace you. Creepy, silly and fun though, because it's the Simpsons and the robots are fittingly voiced by Brent Spiner, who played Data in Star Trek, but also it's just a little too real. According to a 2023 report from Business Insider, the World Economic Forum estimates that 85 million jobs will be replaced by robots by 2025. This whole AI takeover thing, it isn't just some wild idea, it's already starting to happen. And while robots might make certain jobs easier or more efficient, the flip side is that millions of people might lose their jobs as a result. Next, let's talk about something a little more uplifting, literally, hover cars. The Simpsons wasn't the first to dream up flying cars. I mean, science fiction has been teasing them for decades, but what's really cool is there's actually a company called Samson Sky working on bringing this dream to life. They've developed a flying car called the Switchblade, which, to be honest, is more like a car with retractable wings rather than a full-on hover vehicle. Still, it's pretty cool. The company claims it's the world's first flying sports car, and while it might not be the classic hovering car we've all imagined, I think it still counts. At least it's creeping towards it. The Simpsons also predicted Trump's 2024 run. This one also ties into the Barbie movie release, but we'll get to that in a minute. So back in 2015, there was a Simpsons short called Trumptastic Voyage. In a scene where Homer flies by a billboard, we see a sign that reads Trump 2024. At the time, it was a totally out there prediction, right? Well, we all know Trump ran in 2024 and won, but that's not the only eerily accurate prediction from The Simpsons when it comes to Trump. Fast forward to 2023, when the Barbie movie hit theaters, and on the same exact day, Trump was arrested. Coincidence? Maybe, but if you watch the episode Lisa vs. Malibu Stacy from season 5, episode 14, you'll catch a news report mentioning the release of a new Malibu Stacy doll. Toward the end of the segment, the anchor casually adds that the US president has been arrested. In 2023, that moment felt way too familiar. The fact that The Simpsons nailed both Trump's political comeback and the exact timing of the Barbie movie's release and the rest of the stuff, I don't know, it's just, it's really weird. Economic collapse. Now that's fun to think about. Well, again, in Back to the Future, the United States economy crashes. And in the episode, it's supposedly directly tied to Donald Trump's presidency. While the idea of an economic crash under Trump seemed like a far-out prediction at the time, the reality we're facing today is far from rosy. I mean, just in general, the world's economy is struggling. After the global disruptions of 2020 and beyond, lockdowns, the rise of remote work, supply chain chaos, it's just no surprise that things haven't exactly bounced back. Sure, we're not talking about a full-on economic meltdown just yet, but the signs of something major and destructive are definitely there. Here's something that's already here though, NFTs. In The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode Wild Bart's Can't Be Token from 2023, Mayor Quimby announces that the town's art museum is being closed down because all art is now going to be sold as NFTs. Now, at the time, NFTs were already a thing, but they were nowhere near as huge as they became a few years later. NFT art was exploding a couple years back, but it hasn't gone away. Sure, this episode premise was a little ridiculous. Art museums shutting down for NFTs might seem a little out there, but look around and you'll see it's not actually that far off. We've got virtual art galleries popping up, VR headsets for experiencing art, and AI-generated artwork that's been pushing the boundaries of what's considered real art. The point is, a lot of folks have plenty of things to entertain themselves with from the comfort of their own home now, barely ever feeling the need to go out and engage with the world, let alone going to an art gallery. So museums and art galleries shutting down is really not that far-fetched. Alright, we're starting things off with robot workers. So in the season 6 episode Itchy and Scratchy Land, the Simpsons visit this kind of futuristic theme park featuring, of course, the beloved and violent Itchy and Scratchy. In this theme park though, instead of having actors in costumes like you'd see at Disneyland, the cartoon cat and mouse are brought to life with robots. Now, robots replacing jobs is not an idea unique to The Simpsons or anything. This is a very well-explored genre of science fiction. It's not even a novel idea that robotic characters would be used in a theme park. I mean, we've had versions of this for years with places like Chuck E. Cheese, but those are animatronics far less advanced than what we see in this episode. Point is, with robotics becoming more and more advanced each year, and with the whole very real idea of AI AI becoming more prominent and taking people's jobs. I think it's a stretch to see more advanced robots being made in the form of some of our favorite cartoon characters and then being used at theme parks. I don't think that's very much of a stretch. We might even have an entire family of Simpsons robots in the very near future. How ironic would that be?
Okay, next up we have the prediction of an all-consuming black hole forming in the year 2024. Fun stuff. In episode 16 of season 21, the citizens of Springfield gather to view the activation of the town's particle accelerator. But when the machine was turned on, two particles collided and created a small black hole. Lisa was the first to discover the anomaly when the black hole began sucking up her tears, and she quickly learned that the more the black hole consumed, the bigger and bigger it got. Well, Homer turned the black hole into a dumping ground, and eventually it got so big that it began to suck up everything in its path. The episode ended with the black hole sucking up the entirety of Springfield and eventually the world as a whole. It was obviously a Treehouse of Horror episode. Seems pretty far out, right? Well, maybe not. You see, in January of 2024, India launched a new X-ray satellite into space to observe the threat of black holes on our solar system, if The Simpsons got this one right. I'm thinking the satellite mission is probably a little more than just research.
Next on the list, we have 3D printed food. So in the episode Future Drama, Marge takes a picture of Bart and Lisa before prom and turns it into a 3D printed cake. Now, not only is 3D printing technology becoming more commonplace these days, but yes, 3D printed food is actually a thing. Food Inc. is a company specializing in this technology. They even came out with a restaurant where all the food is 3D printed. They described their company on their site as a one-of-a-kind gourmet experience in which all the food, all the utensils, and all the furniture are completely produced through 3D printing in an immersive futuristic space. We are a conceptual pop-up dinner series where fine cuisine meets art, philosophy, and tomorrow's technologies. So technically this is one that's already happened, but the question is, could 3D printed food become a thing in people's homes soon? Almost definitely. It's really just a matter of when. Also, I wouldn't be able to talk about the concept of 3D printed food without bringing up Star Trek. Yes, food replicators were a thing long before this episode came out, but in The Simpsons it's more specific to 3D printing technology, whereas in Star Trek, the food replicator works by converting energy into matter. It's a very different thing.
Next up, we have The Simpsons' prediction of World War III. The prediction was made in 1987 when the show was still fairly new. It was the 16th short of the series and it was titled simply World War III. Nail on the head. The episode begins with Homer frantically waking up his family and telling him that the Third World War has begun and that the first round of explosives have already been dropped. The family makes their way to an underground shelter only for Homer to tell them that he was in fact joking. Haha. In present-day reality, Homer's ramblings are not so much a joke, but rather a pretty scary warning of what might be to come. Considering the fact that there are currently 5 major wars taking place around the world, I'm thinking the prediction made by The Simpsons back in 1987 is looking far more like it was meant for the year 2024.
Alright, let's talk about that big dome over Springfield in The Simpsons movie. So in the movie, the Environmental Protection Agency places a glass dome over Springfield, protecting the outside world from the town's horrible pollution problem. Now, I don't have any news or rumors about a big giant dome cutting anyone off from the outside world anytime soon, but after the events of 2020 to 2022, could there be some sort of dome technology in place? Something that would help conceal a virus, a disease, or an environmental disaster from leaking out and spreading to surrounding areas? Yeah, hey, it's possible. The year is still young, folks. It's been a pretty chill year so far compared to recent years, but you never know when things might kick off in the worst way.
Next up, AI goes rogue. So in our last video and at the beginning of this video, I touched upon and James touched upon AI robots taking our jobs, which was predicted in episode 17 of season 23. But for this video, I want to talk about what happens when AI systems go rogue. In episode 8 of season 31, Thanksgiving of Horror, Homer buys Marge an AI assistant to help her with the preparation of a Thanksgiving dinner. The AI has been programmed with all of Marge's thoughts, feelings, memories, opinions, and personality traits, and it controls multiple robotic arms situated around the entire home. At first, it's quite handy, but soon the device falls in love with Homer, and the thing goes rogue, trying to replace the real Marge. The AI goes against the guidelines of its programming and is able to successfully connect to the internet, allowing it to access sensitive data and reveal secrets about the real Marge. So, we are looking at a device that was able to fall in love with one person, harbor resentment for another, connect to the internet, and cause a whole bunch of chaos. I mean, can anyone say ChatGPT or Sydney maybe? AI devices that can and have connected to the internet and have experienced glitches causing them to claim that they either have fallen in love with humans or that they wish to harm them. So yeah, I feel like this prediction's kind of already come true, but I'm also super scared to see how that's gonna progress.
Alright, hologram technology. Once again, not a concept unique to The Simpsons, but something they've shown in one of their many future episodes, and seeing as so many things seem to play out in real life from stuff we've seen in The Simpsons, future tense stories, I think it makes it worth bringing up. Now, holograms are already a thing, but it's not like it's a common household technology yet. We've seen a couple instances of holographic tech in The Simpsons. In one episode, future Bart receives a holographic message inviting him and his band to a gig, and we could start seeing technology like this being used more often in the very near future. Take DreamHawk HD3 holograms, for example, who have a product that's been available for a while. It's a display case which projects 3D holograms from your phone. Pretty cool.
Thank you, Holographic James. I'm just kidding. Or am I? Next up, we have Ivanka for president. This one seems pretty far out there, but I mean, with the amount of times The Simpsons have gotten it right in the past, I truly have come to believe that anything can happen. In episode 17 of season 11, Bart to the Future, we see Lisa as the first female president of the United States, which is great. In the same episode, they also predicted Trump's run for re-election in 2024. In episode 28 of season 4, however, The Simpsons predict that 2024 might be the last election before Ivanka takes the ballot in 2028. In the Treehouse of Horror episode, the family is headed out to buy a Christmas tree on Halloween. Why? Because according to Homer in America, everything's way too early. And after he says this line, he pulls back his trash can costume to reveal a sticker that reads Ivanka 2028, which means that while unlikely, it is totally possible that we will see Ivanka becoming more and more involved in politics throughout the course of the year, and maybe even announcing an interest in running for office during the next election. But I want to know what you guys think about this crazy prediction, and about the other ones too. Let me know.
Alright, in season 13's Treehouse of Horror episode, one of the segments is called House of Wax. You may remember this one, it's a very clear parody of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Marge upgrades the family home into a highly advanced smart home called the Ultra House 3000, and of course, it's a Treehouse of Horror episode, so the advanced home goes rogue and tries to kill Homer. Obviously, smart homes are a thing now, and on a smaller scale, we even have stuff like Alexa, which we can talk to and like turn on lights and play music for us. But people have talked about some of this technology acting kind of off, listening in on conversations and responding when it wasn't asked, turning lights off without being commanded to. We have tons of videos like this on the channel, check them out after this one. But the idea of a smart home totally glitching out and turning on the homeowners, that's luckily something we haven't seen play out to this degree yet. Again, the year is still young. Now back to Robotic Hannah.
He's just kidding. Or is he? And finally, we have The Simpsons prediction of the OceanGate submarine incident, which, yes, I know happened in 2023, but again, it speaks to the accuracy of the show's predictions. In episode 10 of season 17, which was released January 8th of 2006, Homer meets a man who he believes to be his biological father, and together the two embark on a submersible adventure which soon leads to the discovery of an abandoned ship filled with treasure at the bottom of the ocean. Things are going pretty well until the pair's oxygen levels begin running running low, and Homer gets his submarine stuck on a coral reef after being separated from the man he believes to be his father. Homer blacks out before waking up days later surrounded by his family. Unfortunately, the members of the OceanGate submersible, designed to explore the wreck and treasures of the Titanic, were not as lucky. But what's even stranger is that one of the Simpsons writers, Mike Reese, was actually a passenger on one of OceanGate's successful dives. A dive that cost Reese $100,000 and required him to sign a waiver that mentioned death at least 3 times. Starting off our list today, we have The Simpsons predicting that AI will take over the world, displacing workers and replacing food. In one episode of The Simpsons, Homer is working at his nuclear power plant. Well, I don't know if you can call what he does work, but he was there. Anyways, Smithers calls the plant workers into his presentation room, I guess, and presents them with an army of AI robots and says, "You will train them and they will replace you." That's pretty unsettling coming from a show that's been known to actively predict the future, but even more unsettling when the episode's claim has actually been backed by tangible data. In a report released by BusinessInsider.com in 2023, the World Economic Forum calculated that 85 million jobs will be replaced by robots by the year 2025, meaning that here in 2024, we're pretty much already halfway there. I feel like robot labor could be a good thing if it didn't mean causing a crap ton of people to lose their jobs and their only source of income.
Alright, season 28, episode 2 of The Simpsons, entitled Friends and Family, has a scene where Marge and Homer are using VR. More specifically, they're eating VR food. They have VR goggles on and start eating virtual reality fudge through straws. It's, of course, pretty silly. But there is actually a company called Flavor 5 Studio dipping into this type of technology. They created this project called Aero Banquets RMX. Now, this is pretty hard for me to explain because with how crazy technology is getting these days, I really feel so out of touch. Like, I feel like a 45-year-old man in the 90s trying to decipher what Pokemon was, or Pokemon, as every parent called it. So from what I can tell, this is almost like a virtual reality art project. It's described on their site as exploring the intersection of food and mixed reality. Basically, you put on VR headsets and dine in VR. Project's goal is to reframe human perceptions and change the way we experience food. I still can tell if you're actually eating something and you're just in a VR world, or if you're like tasting fake stuff. I don't know what the world is anymore.
When this technology comes out, if you guys want to fund a trip for James and I, we'll be happy to review it for you. Next up, we have Trump 2024. In an episode released in 2015, long before Trump's original presidential campaign, you know, way back when his catchphrase wasn't MAGA, but simply just "you're fired," The Simpsons released an episode, specifically episode 17 of season 11. And in this episode, Homer Simpson is seen flying past a sign that clearly reads Trump 2024. To take things a step further, The Simpsons also predicted the 2023 incident in which former US President Donald Trump was arrested during his presidency on the same day that the new Barbie was released. In episode 14 of season 5, Lisa vs. Malibu Stacy, a news report is shown on TV documenting the release of the new Barbie doll. In our case, however, it was the new Barbie movie. At the end of the news report, the news anchor quickly slips in the fact that the US president had been arrested, and the segment ends. Trump was arrested the day that Barbie hit theaters. I know this one happened in 2023, but it just goes to show how scarily accurate The Simpsons have been in the past, making this list all the more terrifying.
Next up, we have 2023's Treehouse of Horror segment, Wild Barts Can't Be Token. At the start of the episode, Mayor Quimby announces that the art museum is closing and that all art will now be sold as NFTs. Now, NFTs were a thing well before this episode was out, but AI art has really become more of a thing and more of a concern really this year. The idea that art museums could start closing up, being replaced by people just throwing on VR headsets and looking at quote-unquote art in a virtual reality setting is really not that far-fetched. I mean, thank God Dune Part 2 came out, because it was really looking like movie theaters were gonna be done for by the end of this year. Anyway, this whole thing is just really creepy, and with how accurate The Simpsons are about things, I could see this one happening very soon.
Next up, we've got economic collapse, which is ironically predicted in the same episode that showcases Trump's 2024 presidential campaign, season 11, episode 17. In the episode, we see the United States States economy taking a nosedive right into the ground. Is it BS, or did a group of economic analysts studying the trajectory of economic fall predict either a collapse or major restructuring of the American economy? Here's a hint. It's the second one. But I don't really think this prediction is exclusive to America. We are seeing major economic downfall in many countries, which isn't really surprising considering what we all went through in 2020 and the years that followed. You know, when restaurants shut down and remote working became the norm. And with the state of the world right now, we are looking at a pretty bearish economy. I don't actually know if that word applies here, but basically we're looking at a downwards trajectory.
Next up on the list, we have hover cars. Now, hover cars are of course not unique to The Simpsons. Hover cars are something we've seen in science fiction since the dawn of science fiction, basically. So it's not like The Simpsons came up with something mind-blowing here, but what is pretty mind-blowing is that there is a company called Samson Sky that's saying they're gonna bring out a flying car in 2024. They've already made it, actually. It's just not readily available yet. They call it Switchblade, the world's first flying sports car. Now, from what I can gather from the promo video of this thing, it's really more of just a car with retractable wings that doubles as a car-sized plane. The type of hovering vehicle you're probably thinking of is not really what this thing is, but it's still pretty cool. I mean, retractable wings, it's very like Batman-ish. I don't know what the regulations will be for something like this though. I mean, like, are you gonna need a pilot's license to fly it? How can traffic be controlled in the air with all these like flying cars zipping around? There's a lot to consider. We're not gonna be seeing tons of people using flying cars this year, I don't think, but it's cool that there is one that exists.
Next up, we've got the mission to Mars. In season 27, episode 6, Lisa Simpson, along with the rest of the family, volunteers for a colonization mission to Mars. While the mission is originally set for a date in the future, it gets bumped up due to fear of loss of funding. When it comes time for the space shuttle to launch, Marge and Lisa are strapped in, but ultimately the mission is a failure and the shuttle never actually leaves the ground. If you can't see the connection between this episode's events and current advancements in space travel and technology, you might want to brush up on your current events. Elon Musk has been talking about the colonization of Mars for ages. He even built an entire company, SpaceX, around the goal of colonizing the red planet. In fact, in 2023, the SpaceX Starship was launched. The event ultimately ended in flames because the thing exploded just 4 minutes after takeoff. Luckily, the ship was unmanned. But based off of The Simpsons, it is possible that this year we will see a manned mission launched into space. I mean, it is only natural with the trajectory of the company. And the goal is experimenting with humans' ability to reach Mars. I just hope this launch goes better than the last one. Oh, and by the way, at the end of the episode, a quick clip shows the successful colonization of Mars, which is set to take place in 2051. So stay tuned for that video.
Next on the list, we have the baby translator. So in the season 3, episode 24, Brother, Can You Spare 2 Dimes, Homer's brother Herb invents a device that allows a parent to figure out what their infant's cries mean. They're not really saying much, are they? I need some food. You're not getting a whole lot of info out of these things, I'd imagine. What a godsend, though, a piece of tech like this would be, just to immediately know and then, deal with the issue. Well, turns out there is something like it already in the works, and we're not even halfway through the year yet, so who knows, we may start seeing it get used later in 2024. The company behind the tech is called Zoundream, and they're making some pretty interesting strides in infant care tech. On their site, they describe their cry analysis tech. Here's what it says on the site. Using a comprehensive multimodal approach, we've investigated infant cries, analyzing various aspects such as acoustics, electroencephalography, EEG signals, regional cerebral oxygen saturation, NIRS, facial expressions, and other specific parameters. All these studies have helped us to develop our advanced cry analysis technology. There you go, that explains it. You don't even need to buy one of these things. I can just analyze my own acoustics and electroencephalogs and cerebral cortexes and specific parameters. I'll be able to translate babies.
Next up, we've got the government trying to control us, surprise, surprise, through a series of subconscious processes, including music-induced mind control. In season 12, episode 14, New Kids on the Block, I don't know why it's called that, a music producer takes Bart, Nelson, Milhouse, and Ralph to form a boy band, Party Posse. Their first song was a top hit, but it was also subliminal mind control. The chorus, Ivan et Neoj, was actually join the Navy spelt backwards, and soon the population of Springfield was scrambling to secure a spot serving their country. When Bart's sister Lisa confronted the music producer, he admitted that he was in fact a Navy lieutenant, and that subliminal messaging in music had been a long-standing strategy in recruiting young men into the military. With the way the world stands today, we might very well see an uproar in military propaganda in the coming months. Whether or not that takes the form of subliminal messages in hit pop songs remains to be seen, but if any of these other Simpsons predictions are a staple, a reminder, I can't think of the word, it's likely.
Alright, in season 21's Treehouse of Horror episode, there's a segment called Don't Have a Cow, Mankind. So here Krusty the Clown introduces a new type of Krusty burger with meat made from cows who have eaten other cows. That's just hilarious and oddly believable. I could see a fast food company, like a really dirty fast food company, just being like, it's mega meat! All these cows eat other cows, brother! Anyway, this new burger causes like a mad cow type disease in the town of Springfield, turning people into zombies, or munchers as they're called in this episode. Now again, it's not like The Simpsons invented a zombie apocalypse by any stretch, but with how many things that have played out in real life with an eerie similarity to events in The Simpsons, I'm just gonna stay away if any new fast food burger comes out this year with some new weirdo meat, especially if it's meat coming from a cow that grazed on beef. That is funny in a cartoon, vomitrocious in real life.